Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Ape Escape 2. In the last part, we started our revisits through all the game's levels to grab the remaining monkeys we left behind on the first run, and now we're going to continue to do that. We're not going to be done with this until next part, which, the fact that it's 3 parts to do the revisits isn't too bad. That is, I think, more than it took back in Ape Escape 1's LP, but I don't remember at this point. Again, it looks slow and it kind of feels a little weird in some regards, but it goes by pretty quickly.
Especially with the magic boxing glove now.
Yeah. On top of the fact that with some of the smaller levels, you don't have to go through nearly as much to backtrack and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I do wish maybe you got one more thing besides the magic punch at this point, though, to make things speed up. Like maybe some shoes for Jimmy that maybe make him move a little faster. Even like not as fast as like the hula hoop, but even just like 1.3 times running speed would help a lot. But at the same time, since you always have the hula hoop, that's not really gonna matter, I guess.
What are the monkeys making?
Banana soup. With people in it. I guess.
I don't think so. I believe the banana soup, though.
Something I should note, though. The monkeys you actively need the magic punch to get, the ones that are usually like blocked behind the crates or whatever you need to destroy. They notably share a trait in that they're considered secret monkeys. They can still be detected using like the tell-all scope, and I think at this point even the monkey radar. But they are considered the super hidden monkey in each level. That's mostly noticeable on a trait on the monkey radar.
Yeah, because they're not really classified with specific pants color.
Yeah. Though the mermaid pants is a bold choice.
He made it look good.
Yeah. Owned it. The revisits are also definitely something that's a little more fun to play than it is to watch. Which, that's always going to be the gambit you run with some games and some sections. Like, I always think, for instance, the Paper Mario games are a lot more fun to play than they are to watch in some regards, especially when it comes to certain chapters because there's so much just dialogue and character stuff.
You could say the garden chapter.
Yeah.
And the toy box.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently. It's just that's one of those things that's while like on future playthroughs you tend to start to dread to be like, all right, gotta go through it all again.
Yeah.
And in that regard, that's why I think there's value in people who only play a game once, even if they pay full price for it. Because like, experiences are a very important thing. Like, there's some games I've only ever touched once and probably will never touch again because I got my fill of it. Despite my trophy hunting shenanigans through, like, the Trails series and all that, that's because I love those games. But there's also an element of sometimes you go for everything because you just want to never have to touch the game again.
Yep. I'm sure at least everybody has had at least one video game like that.
Yakuza 3. Yakuza 3. The game's got a lot of cool stuff, but ooh, the control feels weird, and ooh, the mission structure gets real rough, and also the combat's just so stiff.
It's kind of like a weird feeling too. Like, I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before about how, like, when you revisit games from your childhood, and it's like you realize that you're beating it a lot faster. Or there's like, you're like, oh, I had so much fun with this as a kid, and then it turns out the game was crap.
Yeah, like the mixed time dilation, skill ceiling differencing, and all that. Like, I think one of those is Dino Wars on the NES, a game I did as an LP years ago at this point. Like, that's a fun little weird, awkward platformer that I loved as a kid, and I still have some pretty good attachment to it now. It isn't good by most stretches of the imagination. The control is super stiff, the platforming is rough, and the game, like, it works, but it's one of those that just kind of feels like something's wrong. Like, I was pretty kind in that LP back when, but it's also because, A, I don't really like being negative on games to begin with, but also, like, more time's passed since I last played it, so, like, the negative stands out more than the positive, which I think is a pretty big thing with the human mind to begin with for some reason.
You brought me a lot of joy as a child, but now you're just crap.
Like, there's so many games I think of and I can remember loving, but always the worst parts of the game will pop out of my memory. Like, I love Paper Mario 1000 Year Door, like I just talked about that one. I can't stand what chapter was it? Chapter 6? The backtracking chapter with the ghost that takes your name and all that.
Oh, Dupless.
Yeah, like I love that game. I can't stand that chapter. And then there's like the other backtracking fest. That's the General Winter stuff in that.
Oh yeah.
Like, I love that game, but those are the first things I think of whenever I think of that game. And there's levels of that I find disappointing because I love things generalized. So having to focus on the negatives in your memory always just feels weird to me.
Yeah. Well, I kind of have a similar thing, like, with Sly 2, for example. As much as I love that game, and, like, I have a lot of good memories of it and everything, one that always comes to mind is the Contessa chapters.
Yeah,
Yeah, because for one, when I was a child, she scared the crap out of me. But two, it's like, when I was a kid, you're just stuck with one character at that point. And there's nothing inherently wrong with this character. I love this character very much. But it's just, it just feels weird, and you don't have a lot of freedom until you start doing missions there.
Yeah, like, I love Sly 2 myself. The Contessa parts are just such a low point for that game.
Yeah, especially because it got split into two.
And it's why I always kind of, whenever I think about revisiting Sly, it's the chapter set I dread the most. Like, there's worse levels and worse missions, but those chapters are just, eh.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah, that's the thing. It got split into two chapters, didn't it?
Yeah, there's two sets of two chapters in that game that are like the same villain.
Yeah.
Contessa and the two right before that.
Yeah, Rajan.
We gotta just buckle down and do Sly, because we have a lot to talk about with that.
Yeah, we do.
Hint, hint. Alright, so in this level, now that we're back here at this section after the submarine, we can actually talk about one of the most pain-in-the-ass monkeys to capture in the game. I forget their name, but the little, like, Parthenon section to my left right now, they are in the middle of that. They are a wizard monkey. The wizard monkey has 3 attacks, I think. They can spawn in a lot of enemies that just continue to stack up until they run out of space. They can fire magic at you outright, or they teleport. And they teleport very quickly to try and get away from you, to the point where catching up to them feels like, it's not quite pixel perfect, but it feels like the timing is way too strict for its own good. I don't know of a good strategy to capture this guy besides just trying over and over again until you just eventually nab him. I don't like him. No.
God, Spectre should have just made him the final boss.
Honestly, the world would be doomed. Either that or train more monkeys the way this one's been trained.
Clearly, he's trained with the ancient masters.
Won't lie though, not also a bad place to do some money grinding, as you can see, because if he spawns in any of the rats that take your money away from you, you can build up the change real quick here. The big thing is you have to go through most of the level to do this, whereas at the casino, you can do that right at the start. Now, hey, every cent counts for that. Again, even though I'm not showcasing a lot of the gachapon pulls at this point, I am still getting them all off screen. At this point, we've looked back to the beginning of the level. I actively left for a reason, though, because now when I come back in there, the wizard is going to respawn at the center, and I might have a chance to just kind of more accurately sneak up on him. Tommy, that's your name. You might have noticed that Tommy's alertness is 5. In this case, that means the moment you get close, he'll notice you no matter what, I believe.
Yeah, so it's a little hard to sneak on him.
Yeah, like, you need to just charge around and hope you bump him, and it doesn't feel great. I like the unique monkeys a lot. I think they add a lot for the series' visual identity, and each level having its own little thing, but sometimes when they're like Tommy, they get to be an annoyance.
Yep.
Alright, what's the level after this? I think it's the pyramid one. The pyramid one's revisit is one that's lengthy, but is also a lot of new stuff. You just have to get to the new stuff first, because we have to actively charge into the main part of the pyramid. Get back towards where we saw technically the first fires, barring the fireplace we saw last time, that you can put out with the water pump weapon.
Natalie and the professor say that Jimmy did a splendid job, and like splendid performance and everything, and it's like that just means that they just watched Jimmy get his butt kicked by a monkey wizard and just watched.
Suddenly, the main plot of Ape Escape 3 makes more sense. This is one of the few levels, though, where the magic punch is needed to actively reach, I think, 2 monkeys? There's not many of those, but there's a couple.
There's a lot of stuff to break.
Yeah. And again, at least the sound design's good for that, because when you hit something with the magic punch, ooh, you feel that impact.
Oh, it feels good. It feels good.
Like, I'm trying to think of, like, favorite crunchy type sound effects like that. I mean, I may even talked about this recently in some other video. Like, Metroid Fusion, hitting something with the super missile. That GBA crunch.
Well, this is what I like, I'm sure we've talked about it earlier in the LP, but, like, Ape Escape just is really good at making the stuff feel good. Making the gameplay feel good.
Yeah, like, the biggest adjustment period is stuff with the jump, like we said last time, or a couple parts ago now, and just having to get used to the way the game's laid out. Because I remember as a kid I had trouble adapting at first because you don't use the face buttons for anything besides swapping your tools. But once you get used to that, the game really does feel natural, like your index fingers where the jump button is no matter what, it's not your thumbs. It's why I really like when games do stuff with the trigger buttons like that nowadays, where it's like, alright, we put the main attack button up there, or your jump button's up there. It's just that the occasional wait thing is what you need to get used to nowadays, I find.
Yeah. But other than that, like, that's what I really like about these games, is that they feel, like, it feels really good. Especially, like, when you're swinging the net, or you're swinging the stun glove. So nice.
Does make me wonder, though, if we ever get a new one of these, what they're gonna, like, use the new tech in the controllers that's happened since the PS2 for the most part with. Like, I would love to see them, like, use the adaptive triggers for something on the PlayStation 5 DualSense. Or the touchpad could be something interesting, like maybe have the monkey radar always tied to that.
Yeah.
So you can just pop it out at all times.
They could do some fun stuff.
Like, having 5 native tools at all times would be pretty handy for that. Kind of reminds me of what they did with the Link's Awakening remake, actually, now that I think about it, where by default, like, 2 of the items were always with you. Like, you didn't need to equip the shield and sword at all times. The Rock's Feather was a different button, and I think one other item was always a separate button, too. And that made that remake feel really sharp to play, even as someone who didn't mind the constant pausing of the original Link's Awakening in the Oracle games. / Minish Cap, for that matter.
It kind of makes me think of Harvest Moon as well, because I've been playing the Super Nintendo version of the original Harvest Moon, and that one, it's like, in the later games, it's usually have like a backpack that like carries all your equipment and everything, and you have assigned buttons. But here in the Super Nintendo version, you have to actively go to your tool shed and pick 2 tools to take with you. And you have to keep going back to swap them out depending on what you want to do. And it's like, it actually doesn't feel too bad. Because usually, like, once you get the crops growing and everything underway, you're usually with just, like, one, like, the watering can, and then one other tool. Like, if you want to collect wood or something and you have the axe. So it's not the worst. And I kind of like the simplicity of it. It can be a little annoying, though.
There's a level to that where it feels like it's almost kind of comforting because there's that slight, like, veil of realism to it, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, of course I have to go back to get that. I can't carry all that shit. But that's it. If they ever did that in Rune Factory, I would riot.
Yeah, no, Rune Factory is, for the genre it is, it's like, you wouldn't be able to do that, really, and make it feel good. It would just be very tedious.
It does kind of connect to, like, the thing we thought about the end of last time, though, where, like, what if we got, like, a 2D platformer Ape Escape? I think it's very important for whenever a series does something new that it tries to keep the same spirit in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why, even though the later Paper Marios aren't great, I still respect them as games because there's at least still some spirit of the visual style there, for instance. Or why I don't mind the various Mega Man spin-offs, because, like, well, yeah, they're always at the core about the same general stuff. Just with different ideas thrown in.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, I'm also very, like, thinking of, like, those alignment charts that's, like, lawful good. A game of this series must play like this. I'm of the mindset of, I guess this would be, like, true neutral. If it has the title, it is inherently a game in that series. Even if it feels radically different. Like, Ape Escape's actually a pretty good version of that because of the PSP games we didn't get over here being things like visual novel type minigame collections and all that, and raising simulators.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the more annoying monkeys to get because you gotta jump all the way up here. Oh god.
Ow!
Whee!
Poor Jimmy.
That monkey committed to the jump. You were about to say, though?
Oh, I did read a little bit of trivia in that there actually was plans for one of the Ape Escape spin-offs to be localized, but apparently 3 did not sell very well. And so they kind of kiboshed the plans.
That doesn't really surprise me because after Ape Escape 3, the series just kind of disappeared in the West for the most part.
Yeah.
And then they tried to bring some over here and there, like the Move game, but then things just kind of failed.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if that's why we started seeing less and less of a lot of their series at that point. Like maybe the most recent entry on the PS2 just didn't do that great because either it was super late PS2 or the previous game burned them out on it in some form.
Yeah.
Because I can see someone playing Ape Escape 2 going, this is good, I'm good now on the series, because it's a lot more of the same stuff, and then they miss out on a lot of the cool, unique stuff that 3 does.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of series, thinking about it, got like 3-4 entries in the PS2, maybe 1 entry on the PS3, and then dropped off the face of the earth for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Ah! On top of the other issues that were going on in the gaming industry during that generation on what things were focusing on and all that.
My god, that monkey can leap.
Adrenaline. You know what? I give credit with the Vita-Z bananas being a thing. They actually are probably technically like genetically modified at this point now I think about it.
True, true.
It's like all our jokes about their ankles should be broken or that monkey's dead suddenly make more sense because they're probably super monkeys now. Something Super Saiyan joke. I don't know why I've always loved that particular type of loading screen / transition where it's just we're gonna pause the screen and then render it as an image. The Ocarina and Majora games have that as well for Zelda because that's how they handle pause screens.
Yeah, but it's cute, and I like the little like transition noise as well.
Like it's interesting how just like minor touches like that can add a lot of identity to a series.
Mm-hmm. Makes it very cartoony, which is like perfect for Ape Escape.
Like, there's always this talk of what a series should be like mechanically, but I feel like a lot of people don't give enough credit to, like, the audio and visual aspects to a franchise. Feels like I didn't do that right, but, oh well. Alright, this room's kind of funny. We got all sorts of chests in here. Some of them have monkeys, some of them don't, some of them just have enemies, but either way, there is a lot of money you can make in this room. Again, not a bad place to do some potential coin grinding if you're going for gachapon stuff. Just the casino is, again, the best one to do that at. You know, games like this having casinos in it, no wonder our generation is susceptible to gacha games so much, because we grew up with casinos like this. Ah!
I guess you could say in this room, the real treasure is the monkeys we captured along the way.
That's beautiful, man. It is kind of weird how much we had like casino imagery in games aimed at kids back when.
Oh yeah.
Thinking about it.
Oh yeah, well like even a Sonic series, there's like the whole levels that are based on casinos.
Like, it's no wonder that Europe eventually like said no to that stuff, and that's why like even the game corners spirit in Pokemon, and honestly for the better in that regard, because I never liked the game corners mechanically.
Yeah, I do. Admittedly, I do kind of miss it. Just cause, like, mostly nostalgia, because I remember going in there and always wanting the frickin' Dratini, but I could never get it.
That's why I always bought the coins when I could, but even then that wasn't always feasible. God, that's a lot of monkey. Alright though, we're about 2/3 of the way through the revisits. But with that, we're gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 13, we finish off the level revisits before going into another mechanic we haven't talked about yet. See you guys then.
Bye-bye.